She's calling back. We're going to try to give her a call again, and then she just added another phone number to the 13-year-old grandson who's possibly with the daughter. Step out with this.
2412.
Veteran crisis hotline's calling in, so they have a female veteran off her medication. She's at work to Safe Haven. Detective 12, take a check that one out.
6 Rumble, 2 1 start, take your shots.
Officer still stands for talk? No. Offender in custody? Thanks. Anyone else close, wait to see what's up, let me know. First number. 10-4. Who's possibly with the daughter? Step out with this.
2412.
So they have a female veteran's off her medication. She's at work to Safe Haven. Detective 12, check that one out.
6 Rumble, 2 1 start, take your shots.
Officer still stands for talk? No. Offender in custody? Thanks. Anyone else close, wait to see what's up, let me know.
33. I'll let a supervisor know that I have location for arrest attached.
1830.
At least got to hear the saxophone before we get on here and start talking. I'm not sure. Whoa, didn't mean to start off that way. They're running behind. I apologize. I think Audrey dropped out, so she's okay. You lost connection. And thank you so much, Typically Unique member for 19 months. Please reach out to me. I can't remember the email. Reach out to me, and I would love to have you and your husband on some of my Idaho 4 shows. So reach out to me in email or something, and let me know like what nights would work good and times and stuff. And I'd love to have both of you guys on too, because it's always a good conversation when her and her husband talk Idaho 4 too. Good stuff. But thank you all for hopping up. And hold on one second.
Everybody's losing connection.
I don't know. Something's going on here. Well, StreamYard.
We lost Audrey.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to sign back in.
Sign back in.
Yeah, and something's up with StreamYard. They had an update today after I got done with my morning show. There's some kind of scenes panel or something, and it's just buggy as hell. It's so buggy. I need to learn OBS and just be done with StreamYard. But yeah, so there might be some issues with StreamYard tonight, and I apologize if there is, because it's been kind of giving me issues too with this new update. You know, you spend this much money. Like the plan I used to have was the $55 plan or something, and that gave, you know, all the options for other content creators to do all these other things, you know, and it's about community. And I'm like, hey, it's worth it to pay the extra because everybody can share to their own. Oh, I'm hearing an echo. Everybody can share, you know, to their own channels, and it creates awareness, and, you know, it's about doing it together. And I had to like go down to the $50 a month plan because they doubled everything a couple months ago, and ever since then it's just been a buggy mess. So do you guys use what do you use, Kathy, when you do your videos?
Well, mine, you know, my podcast started on Spotify, and so from there it just populates, you know, Amazon and Listen Notes and iHeart and Apple. And then for YouTube, what I'll do is I populate the podcast onto YouTube, and then I'll every once in a while do a video. I use Riverside as a tool for that.
Okay. Huh, I need to get on Spotify. I always wanted to get on Spotify because I'd like to do like interviews and stuff with people. A lot of the people that we talk, you know, and hang out and are in the same community. There's so many people that I'd love to interview and hear their stories, you know.
Yeah, that would be a great tool for you, CJ, you know, because Spotify is huge. And then from there, you can then populate onto, like I say, Amazon. And I really like Listen Notes a lot because it has a dynamite search engine. So if somebody has, you know, and wants to do some research now that this docket is so immensely large, all they have to do is populate, you know, just throw in their IgG, DNA, or Pennsylvania documents. It'll pull up all of the episodes I've done over the past year and tell you where to look on the docket for it, you know, because my followers are really interested in the filings and they read the filings. So I would recommend it, CJ, if you want to do it for interviews.
There you go. Yeah, I've always wanted to. I just got to figure out how to do it. There's links if you guys want to check it out, and I'll drop Audrey's and Yoli's link as well. Is everything okay, Audrey?
There's Audrey.
Can you hear?
Is everything okay?
Is she frozen?
Oh, I think she's frozen.
Aw.
Audrey.
Gosh, you're working fine this week, Kathy. Now it's StreamYard. StreamYard's got it. It's got it. StreamYard's got it out for Audrey tonight for some reason.
No. Oh no.
It had. Am I supposed to kick? Oh no, it just left. Well, in the meantime, I wanted to ask you guys some things. So, you know, we can still get into the key notes from the transcripts, but I got
Mhm.
4 really important questions that I would like to ask before we discuss some of the keynotes and transcripts and whatever time we have left after that. Man, and I wish Audrey was here too. Let me see.
We can wait.
Let me see.
We can put on a show.
Well, I'll tell you what. I do plan on.
Frozen shock phase.
CJ was in
Oh,
Frozen.
no.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
no.
I had Frozen shock phase for a second there because I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do? But I want to say shout out to AR Hayes, a convict's thoughts with AR Hayes. He had reached out. You know, he had always came along and hung out in the chats in the beginnings of our show, and he had so many. I don't know. It was crazy the amount of love that the community over there gave me last night. I went over there to hang out for a little bit just to say hi because he had reached out to me a couple days ago wanting to get together on some Idaho 4 stuff and some of the other stuff that I discussed too. And so I was like, yeah, man, it's been a long time. You've always been solid. Yeah, let's do it, you know, anytime. And so I went over there to say hi last night to his channel, and then I ended up getting on there and panel, and we discussed a lot of Idaho 4 stuff, and I just wanted to give him a shout out, and I'll drop the link here in a second. I'll get it for you. But I just wanted to say shout out to him and his community because it was a really great conversation last night that I had. I wasn't even planning on it. I just went in there to throw some hearts and show some support real quick before I went back to work. And next thing you know, I'm up there talking with their whole panel. So shout out to them. I just wanted to say that real quick. Audrey, you okay? You don't look frozen no more.
I've been having internet trouble the past 2 days. I don't know what it is. I should be good now.
Yeah, I've been having my stuff's been dropping out at like random times too, just for like a minute, and it's like, what's going on here? Not only the sick bugs, but all the electronic issues throughout as well. All right, I'm glad that you guys are back because I have 4 big questions I would like to ask each one of you, and then I'll get to the next one. So the first question I have to ask you, because I've been in deep with Sebastian's case the last couple of days. I know there's been a whole lot of updates for this case amongst others. But what is this no alibi for BK? What is this? And I'll start with Yoli first, and then if you guys want to just go ahead and have the discussion. I'm curious, and I'm sure they're curious too.
Is it when you say no alibi for BK, which document are you referring to?
Well, it's okay. So, like the defense, the prosecution is seeking to limit the alibi evidence.
Okay, yeah.
So, like when we all remember from the, summer of 23, we found out he was driving to look at stars, right? That's when we started.
That he had a habit of doing that,
Right.
of driving at night and stargazing.
And when I went out there, that's when I found out the cell tower, you can be in the bottom right corner of Pullman and still connect to the tower that services 1122. And I said, okay, well, you can still be in Pullman, go visit the stars and still connect. Okay, sure. So what are they exactly? Is it sealed?
No, they don't. They don't want. Well, I guess John Judge. He was supposed to have a hearing. He tabled it, and it never got heard. So now the prosecution is bringing a motion in limine to exclude any evidence of an alibi.
Okay, so
they're saying that they don't. What they've produced is basically. They're saying that they didn't meet the statutory definition for alibi, and how I understood Ann Taylor back in the day was that she was gonna construct his alibi through various things, and one is the fact that their own people with their cell phone, whatever they do, had him driving around at night 12 times. Okay, so that could be a habit. He's not charged with stalking. So that could be evidence of habit, and habit is habit evidence. There's a statute on it. So they want to preclude that. And Ann Taylor, I don't know if you remember, a long time ago, she wanted to have this ex party with the judge.
Yeah.
Alibi. And we're like, what could she possibly want to show the
Right.
judge?
Right.
And I don't know. I'm thinking maybe medical records, and maybe that's why we have this motion regarding autism. Maybe she wants to show that he had a routine and
Oh,
that he had a
okay.
routine.
Because when I was first hearing it, I wasn't able to check, and when I was first hearing it, I was like,
Yeah, Nancy
"What?"
Grace.
We had heard OCD, we had heard the ADHD, we had heard all of those other mental health struggles, right? But then this was the first time I had heard autism today. When we're talking about Sebastian's case, it's like it hits you at the heart. And so then you're sitting there going, wait a minute, autism? Where is this coming from?
Yeah.
And I never thought about it. It's about the routines.
Well,
You're
yeah,
right.
because in the motion of the prosecutor, the
Mm,
motion limine to exclude any alibi evidence or whatever it is,
mm.
they say that the state the defense is wanting to use it for state of mind for other reasons, not as a defense to anything.
Oh, okay. So it's not actually
No,
so it's not actually trying to get him off a death penalty. It's trying to establish more of the alibi.
that's what I think. I don't know for sure. I mean, it
What do you
could be because I haven't seen her motion, the defense's motion.
what do
So
yeah.
yeah, so since I haven't seen the defense's motion, I'm just going by what the prosecution said. And in Idaho, they don't have insanity defense or anything like that, but
Mm.
it could be being used for mitigation as well if he's found guilty. I don't know. I'm
'Cause
just
I
that's
thought
my
Nancy,
best guess.
I thought Nancy Grace came out with a video how he was trying to get off a DP for autism. So maybe that's where I got confused. Is that how you guys took it, Kathy and Audrey?
I
Are
don't.
you
I think they're in trouble with this alibi defense. I have to say, I did a
really?
show. Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
I did a show a couple months ago. Whatever happened to the alibi defense, and pointed out that what they're trying to do is, yes, as Jolie had said, absolutely, she remembered it correctly. That they would say he was out, he was looking at the star, he was driving in YKK Park. But typically, how your classic alibi defense goes is that you have someone who knows, not an expert witness, but a fact witness who can testify that you were in the hospital receiving, you had a broken
Mhm.
leg, you were in general hospital. There's no way you could have been at 1122 King Road because I'm the treating physician and I saw you in the hospital with a broken leg. Or I was on a plane with the guy and flying across the country. There's no way that he could have been there. Or he was at work. That's what comes up a lot of times. You get alibi defenses. Yeah, the guy was at work and I saw him and I'm his employer. What he's trying to do is he's endeavoring, at least the last that we heard, and it's been a while because, like Yoli said, this came up in Latah County, and then it sort of just it just fell by the wayside, and
Yeah.
that's why I did my art. I did mine a couple months ago. Whatever happened to the alibi? He's trying to get in testimony through an expert witness, Cy Ray, who may or may not be admitted as an expert witness. And Cy Ray doesn't have firsthand knowledge. He's going to try to do it through technology, and that's not how an alibi defense works. So we're going to have to wait and see what the response is to this. It's not due until the 14th of March, or when the response and oppositions with what they come up with. But I think that they're, based on what we have on the record so far, I think the state has a good shot at saying, basically, if he wants to continue with this alibi defense, he's going to have to get on the stand. You know, I mean, we know that there's no way he could ever be compelled to give testimony against himself. But if you're going to come forward and say, "Hey, I'm raising an alibi defense," then that's what Thompson's been saying all along. You know, he's going to have to get up on the stand and say where he was, and then that
Yeah,
subjects him
he
to
did.
cross. That's going to be a
He
problem.
he has. That's true. That is very true. Ever since the witness or the alibi, he was throwing fits. Oh, that makes a lot of sense too. Holy hell, interesting. What about you, Audrey?
Well, I never
Wow.
really thought about what you were saying, Yoli, but that makes sense too. I took it a different direction because they have a law in Idaho that we looked up yesterday. And if you have a certain behavioral health, you can't you can't have the death penalty. So I
Oh,
thought that Ann Taylor was trying to use this as a way to strike the death penalty, although Brian may not meet that criteria. But this is just another way to attack that. And in addition to that, like you were saying, Yoli, I thought if for mitigation purposes, and the state might want to get ahead of that, and so they wanted to put that in limine.
yeah. And so
Mm.
I don't know which it could be, but I just remember her wanting to have an ex party with the judge, and everybody was asking, "What's an ex party?" And it was to show him documents, and I vaguely remember something about documents, and it didn't happen though.
Mm.
Thank you,
So
typically unique. Typically, sorry, she
Man.
helped me figure that out yesterday.
Oh, wow.
I was listening. I
Uh,
was listening for some of it. Yeah.
We got to get her on the show and her husband too. All right. Uh, but man, that's real interesting. All three of you have really unique viewpoints when it comes to that because when I heard it, I was like, okay, I don't have time to go through a bunch of documents tonight. But at the same time, like I gotta know. I gotta know. Um, Another interesting thing was that BK was not on Ellie's radar during when they had the Indiana traffic stops either, which is something that I've continued to stress this whole time. I don't even know why they're even saying they got onto him when they did, because the statement. I mean, if you're how is changing the vehicle to a 2011 to 2015? How does that give a warning to this to Brian Koberger if he's in frickin' Pennsylvania?
I know, I know. That just
You
makes no
know,
sense. That makes no sense at all. As
and the
does, but I mean,
29th,
so much of this
they were
case
still
doesn't.
looking.
So much of
It
this case. I mean,
doesn't.
why did they hide the suspect vehicle one when they did the bolo? You know, I mean, every other enforcement agency in the country, when you do a be on the lookout, if it's for a kidnapped child, if it's for somebody that just robbed a bank, no matter how grainy the photograph is, they're going to show you the photo of the actual vehicle that they're looking for. They're not going to say, oh, well, we're looking for this missing child, but we're not going to show you what she looks like. We're going to show you another child who looks like her, and here it is. You know, that made no sense whatsoever. And another issue, these motions in limine, they were filed on the 24th. Many of them, some of them are under seal, but there's a lot here that are not, they're still not on the docket as of today. I checked, and I was hoping
No,
that they would be for tonight's
checking.
show, but they haven't
Yeah,
published them yet.
Yeah. I was looking on my phone.
let me see. Are you still here? I can do a refresh real quick, and I went to the bottom. Oh crap! Hold on. Okay, this has got to be his. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
No, there's not. I mean, I don't know who's holding back these documents, because there are 4 subpoenas that are public records. We know that because if you look at the case summary page, when you see a PDF icon, that means a public record. It's the lock and key says it's under seal. There were 4 subpoenas, CJ, that were issued back on the 12th of February. 2 Ducas 2 subpoenas. They have never been it's over 2 weeks now. In counting today.
Okay.
Wow!
I don't know who's deciding to hold back these
Wow!
records from the public, But if you look at if you go back to the 12th, you'll see them on there. Now
Why
we don't
wouldn't
know.
they?
Is this a subpoena for the in limine hearings on the 9th of April that they got out earlier? Is this something else? We don't know. I mean, as if there's not enough stuff that's been hidden from the public since the beginning of the case, then you're going to start not publishing public documents.
Well, even subpoenas that were published, they were blank, the ones before.
That's right. That's right. But at least it gave us some information,
Yeah.
Yoli, as to who requested them. We found out that it was a defense. We found out that they were for the suppression hearings, because it said you will be, you're
Yep.
commanded to be here unless you bring the documents. And it was the 23rd of January at 8 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, you're right. It didn't have any name in it. And then I looked it up and I found out in Idaho they can do that. The states that I practiced in, you can't. You've got to put in, when you go to the court and you ask for a subpoena, state or federal, you need to put in the name of the person that you're asking for, if it's non-party especially. Of course, it's the other side, you issue a request for discovery. But I mean, it's 2 weeks now. Why haven't those documents been released to the public?
Yeah, because usually with him, it's pretty damn quick. It don't take no time at all.
Well, when he released the redacted version of the transcript from the 23rd, it was released that immediately. His orders are immediately hit the docket. These motions in limine, they were filed on the 24th. The ones from the state that they filed on Friday, they showed up on Monday. All of these motions in limine from the 24th, why is it taking 3 days now? It's not going to get published until tomorrow at the very earliest. Why is it taking 3 days to hit the public docket?
They're busy. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know why.
But you see only what I'm saying? I mean, those subpoenas, the two Dukas Deacons and the subpoenas, should have hit the docket by now. I mean, tomorrow's going to be 2 weeks in one day. It's either they're very, very busy, or it just happened to be, in this case, the biggest case in the country. They don't get around to but they updated the docket. It says here it was updated on the 26th.
So it was updated today. They didn't just put it out there.
Yeah.
Why? Because what? Maybe is there going to be some redacted stuff on there that they gotta know?
I don't think so.
Right. I mean, when they're filed, they're either filed under seal or they're filed as public records. So, who's making the decision to not release the public documents to the public?
It is weird.
That's what I'd like to know.
You think they might not?
I don't know. I think maybe the judge has to review the documents and maybe he gets tied up. I'm not sure, but it's a very strange thing because they don't show up.
But I mean, if a party files it as a public record, like if I'm Ann Taylor and I file something as a public record, why is the judge deciding that that's not going to be a public record? I mean, maybe he can come back later and reprimand her for whatever, but why is he stepping in? There's no protective order. I've never heard of that before.
I don't know. I have no idea, honestly, why it takes so long.
This is how they do it. It's how they do it up there. That's all you can say. They got their own way of doing things. So why? So you think if he wants to use the routine as an alibi, well, that's what he was saying in the beginning, right? Was that's what he was doing because he does it a lot.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't
I don't know that it's enough to be an alibi. But she was also waiting for discovery.
Wait, so he wasn't going to use any kind of other defense other than I just like to go drive around and look at stars. I thought that's one of the reasons why Cy Ray got all that praise back then, was because he was supposed to be the guy to show that he could be so much distance away from a quote ping. Even Scott Reich from Crime Talk is a defense attorney, and and got his client off based off of the same kind of, like, you can't say that my client was 30 blocks away, which is
Yep.
true when you're coming to Pullman in Moscow when it comes to the distance. So
he can use that. It's just not going to be termed in an alibi sense. He's just going to refute what
he would
Cy
have
Ray would be
on the-
doing. Yeah, is refuting. Cy Ray would be refuting their expert.
right. Yeah.
That picked him at the
So
house.
basically, they're just trying to say, look, if you want to say that, then you can say it on the stand. Kind of
Right,
like what
right.
Kathy was saying. Like, if you want to say that and you want to, because really, that isn't an excuse. That's not. It shouldn't be part of. Yeah, I like to do this. Well, that's fine, but you still need some other. You need homework. You could.
Well,
You can have the answer to the test, but you need the homework to go with it. So you need to show that, no, I wasn't over at these locations. And that's what I don't understand. Like, that's that big of a deal.
when you look at the statute, Thompson is citing to the statute, and that's what it boils down to. 519, that's the notice of alibi defense, and it clearly says in here, at any time after arraignment before a magistrate, blah, 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 it says a written notice of the intention to offer a defense of alibi. Such notice by the defendant shall, not may, not could, not, it shall state the specific place or places at which the defendant claims to have been at the time of the alleged offense. And
There you
here's
go.
now here's where he's in trouble, CJ. And
Yeah.
the names and the addresses of the witnesses upon whom he intends to rely on to establish such a defense. Now,
Ooh, that's
unless
gonna be
Cy Ray's in
expensive.
the car with him, that's one thing. But Cy Ray hasn't been accepted as an expert witness. What if Hitler says he's been stricken as an expert witness in one case, at least that we know of? What
Right.
if Hitler says, "Nah, I'm sorry, I don't go for this"? All right, so who then is he going to rely on? What Thompson's saying is, okay, you want to give an alibi defense, you need to give me witnesses. He has no witnesses. Well, then you need to get up on the stand. Then you're your own witness. That's where he's going to be in trouble. Well, I mean, we'll see what Ann Taylor says in the response. It's not due till the 14th, but I don't see how he gets past this. I
Well,
really
why?
don't.
Yeah, because why? Let's be honest. Yeah, of course. Because why say you got witnesses? Like, yeah, I was over here and I stopped and got M&Ms at this gas station.
Right.
Like, yeah, okay, there you go. But if you don't have any witnesses when you claimed you do, I wouldn't approve it either.
Yeah. So Cy Ray can counter. He can still counter if he's deemed an expert by the court. He could still counter the prosecution's expert witness because that's what he would be doing normally. It's just that he won't be able to show a conclusive. It won't rise to the level of an alibi.
I always thought that they weren't going to use the alibi, that they just kept putting that out there so that the state had something to hang on to, as like a red herring, and while Ann Taylor's doing something else with her
Right.
3D chest.
Right, because it's not your job to prove; it's your job to defend. It's their job to prove. So yeah, exactly. Good point. Yeah, I just don't know why you would say it if you don't have it. There would. I mean, really, and the only way that you could have witnesses, you would have to use the same footage that Moscow PD was using when it came to trying to find a suspect vehicle. They would have to use the same footage to show that he was taking the route that wasn't going to Moscow, but was also, was going out towards that park. And there would be footage to show that as well. So that would be interesting to find out, like, if they use the same footage to show. Because couldn't that video evidence be considered as a witness too? But back then, it was way too early for them to even go through all that footage back then when this stuff was coming out. So I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose a video could, but it would have to be authenticated, and the person would have to say, "This is I maintained it," and
It came from the prosecution and the discovery.
yeah, but
So
the person, or if they would just have to say that they knew, that it hasn't been altered and that it's been, secured.
yeah, the prosecution, they could be like, "Hey, pull up this tape and we can show you it's the same quality and the same, edit or whatever." Otherwise, what other witnesses do you have if it ain't when you got M&Ms at a gas station on the way?
Right.
You could have the guy at the checkout.
The guy that you like when you turned the corner, you saw his dog taking a dump in his yard, and you're like, "Hey, sir, can I get your name real quick?" All right, cool. And I got your address. All right, buddy. I just might need it. I mean, how do you even get names and
No,
address?
you could figure out. I mean, if you went in to get M&Ms at the 7-Eleven at a certain time, he could at least check who was working at that time.
Yeah,
And
that's it. Not the neighbor with his dog pooing in the front yard. Not that guy. So it would have to be somebody that you physically seen and they physically seen you.
That's
Like,
how it works. I mean, it's classic cases. The guy was at work and the employer gets, oh, geez, now I got to go in court and give his testimony. Goes in, says, here's the time slips. He was in. I saw him that day. He was a mechanic. We worked on this car. I mean, that's what an alibi defense is. You need witnesses. You need witnesses who were with you and can come into court and give testimony that they were with you, not through a third party who's not even been accepted yet as an expert witness. I don't know why Ann Taylor even offered that. I haven't seen any research where you could offer in an expert witness to be part of an alibi defense. It's right there in the statute. CJ, I did the link for the statute in the chat if anybody wanted to read it. I mean, that's what it's going to boil down to. I think the state is going to win this one, and if Mr. Koberger wants to continue, he's going to have to go on the stand, which is very dangerous, as
I don't
Jolie
think he'll
knows.
understand.
As Jolie knows, it's dangerous when they get up on the stand.
well, this is what's crazy to me is, do you think the guy that works behind the counter at the gas station or the neighbor that his dog was pooing, do you think they're going to travel all the way to Boise to be a witness? How does that even take place? Yeah, you have to go and you have to like lose out all this money. Sorry to inconvenience your life for this guy.
Well,
I mean, the defense, the state has to pay for it in the long run for that too. I mean, that's a long distance. You got the Consalvas family like trying to get thousands of dollars for GoFundMe just to travel back and forth.
well, I think that didn't Dan Taylor say, "Hey, we're paying for Brett Payne to be here the other day"? They issue a subpoena, and then if people blow it off because they don't want to go 300 miles away, well, then you're going to get hauled into court, and you're going to have to explain to Judge Hippler why you violated the
That's messed
subpoena.
up.
That's it.
That's messed up. What if the
That's how
guy
it
can
works.
barely? What if the guy that is dog pooed could barely get a McDonald's hamburger a night for himself, but make sure his dog gets fed and he doesn't have any money to go down there to be a witness and gets a subpoena? That's messed up.
Well, yeah.
Who pays for that? Because I ain't paying for it. And I'm not saying I'm in that position, but I'm just saying if somebody expected me to go 300 miles, man, and I gotta miss my work, somebody's gotta pay me. That's no. How is that right? Just because he drove by me and I was taking my dog out at the same time? Well, I'm gonna make sure I take my dog out in the backyard from now on.
Not go out at all.
Or that, like something. I ain't going out in front yard no more because I wouldn't want it to happen again. That's messed up.
Could you imagine not showing up for court and you live in Moscow or something, and here comes Brett Payne to pick you up in the squad car and bring you before Judge Stephen J. Hippler to explain why you violated these? I don't think that would be a good day.
At least it's a free ride. I mean, come on, like Man, that's so messed up that that could happen to somebody.
But on the other hand, I mean, it's a guy's life at stake, and if he has
I'm,
evidence,
I mean,
he's got to be there.
I get it, but who's to say that that guy's life isn't at stake? He's just living a free life while it's at stake financially because the economy is horrible.
Yeah, it is.
So that could mean like you do that to somebody and they have to miss a couple days and who knows, maybe it might be longer because he's a freaking witness. It could be a couple days, but it could be that long where inconvenience, miss out on, like I get like your job would have to go like, hey, that's okay, we get it, no problem. But you're not getting paid but crumbs from the court. They're not replacing your check. And there's a lot of people that are living check to check right now.
No
And
doubt. Yeah.
and that couple days can literally throw somebody into a spiral, a tailspin that they might not ever be able to recover from. And trust me, and I know it's for somebody else's, you know, but somebody's got to pay for it. Why is the state and the defense allowed to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on this case, and they can't spend $1,000 to make sure that this dude has a comfortable ride, even if it's in a squad car from Moscow?
Oh, no,
A com-
he's getting
He's
picked
talking
up
about
by
a fictional.
MPD.
a comfortable ride, like that's not fair. Sorry. I know that's probably something not to really chat about, but I'm just thinking about that guy or that lady if they're in that position. So do you think they're going to drop tomorrow?
I hope so, CJ. I mean, there's a lot of good information, and when you start looking in Limine, you're realizing that, okay, I say that the trial starts July 30th. I don't know what Hitler's talking about, that it's going to start August 11th or something, because that's for Dyer. That's the process of jury selection. This is a jury trial. July 30th is going to be here before we know it. And I mean, they've got to drop these documents because the public has been shut out so much. It's not until you really look at this case summary page and you see how many documents are under seal. It's like this is a big espionage case.
Yeah,
Like he was
that's
some sort of like
Scroll.
a spy that
yeah,
sold secrets to Russia or something like that.
how I
And they
feel.
got to keep it on everything, and then a gag order on top of
National
it.
security.
Yeah,
Oh my
you know what I
gosh.
mean?
Are you talking like Brian Powers, like Austin Powers and Brian Koberger mixed together?
Yeah,
Something. I mean, that's what this case
yeah,
reminds me. I
because
had never
The
seen a
spy
case
the
like
the
this.
spy who sheathed me, you know?
I'm just like, no, you know, you know what I think. They said that they were over there in Pennsylvania and that they had to move in fast because of exigent circumstances. Well, I reviewed the press conference when they had a press conference about his capture again, and they planned it. They planned it. There was no exigent circumstances.
Just made to fit, huh?
They planned it. There was no talk about, well, the suspect, we were afraid he was going to destroy evidence, so we went in. No.
What they told the judge, and the good thing is the Pennsylvania documents are available online. So you just have to plug in Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus Koberger. With those two, Leary and Knoll, those were the two that signed the Pennsylvania affidavit of probable cause, of which in Exhibit A was one Brett Payne's affidavit, and it has a lot more information, and he's basically telling them what to do
Yeah.
when they get a hold
Yeah.
of his phone, right? They
Yeah.
told the judge there in Pennsylvania that they thought, well, hey, he's wanted in another state. These are serious crimes. It's officer safety, it's safety of the public. So that's what was told and that's where they got the nighttime warrant, because they had to get a special warrant to be able to go in there at night.
Yeah, the cilantro.
Yeah.
But why? I don't understand the exigent circumstances in getting rid of evidence, because this is already a month and a half after the crime. I mean, you would think that exigent circumstances is when you chase a guy who goes into the house and you don't have time because he's going to go in there and do something, and there's kids in there, and that's exigent circumstances, so you can just burst down the door and get in.
Well, I guess it's it's all under the water now because Hitler has said that
Yeah,
all of those weren't. But I mean, Yoli, what they basically said is all of a sudden they saw a light go on, and like I thought he was arrested in the kitchen. That's what I thought. That's what I was
that's
led to
what I
believe.
heard.
Right, but we now found out through recent droppings of information through the suppression motions and so forth, is that what these officers did is they were outside, they had the bear cat and everything else, and they were watching him, and they saw the light go on in the kitchen, and they saw a tall guy go in there, and they figured that that was Koberger, and then he went outside into the garage, and the
Oh my
light went
God.
on in the garage where
He went
suspect vehicle
outside.
1 allegedly was, and he went back into the house again, and they were thinking that he went out to the car to bring in evidence that he was, and that's when they decided to move in, and they did the accelerated knock, like they knocked but then they went in like right away. It
So
wasn't like any amount of time.
That is just, he was probably going to smoke something.
Yeah, they found a couple of bags. That's true.
Green leafy.
That's in the inventory in
And he didn't
Pennsylvania. They
want to
found a
do
couple
so they
bags.
so
Yeah.
they thought that he saw the little birdies in the trees through the sniper scopes. Oh, they're onto me. And goes out to the car. That's funny. Uh
Hold on, I'll be right back. 1 second.
and Diane, that was a great comment. He drove the Elantra like Austin Powers drove the golf cart with the forward and backward. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Hey CJ, it is what it is. Just put up a really interesting comment, and I think I agree with her on this one. In retrospect, regarding change of venue. This last comment by It Is What It Is. Ann Taylor messed up by moving judges. She got everything she wanted with Judge. This new judge, she's got nothing. That is absolutely true. She won a lot in front of Judge. She won a lot in front of him. She's absolutely 0 for 0 with Hitler. She lost all of the DP motions. She lost all of the suppression motions. The Franks hearing, we can't, I mean, that's difficult to get, can't hold that against her, but she's won nothing in front of Hitler. Would it have been just better to have stayed where she was? I don't know. He don't play her games.
You see that, Yoli? You read that comment? And then Aaliyah put another interesting comment too, and I'm kind of worried about this one, like coffee cup worried, and I'll tell you why in a second. But
Mm.
yeah, there's sometimes when you're watching the court hearings too, and she ends up pausing a lot and kind of having to readjust, or even
Yeah.
it was horrible when we were watching. I can't remember her name.
The other one, mask off.
Flipping through all the papers and not
Yeah.
having the pointers for the judge, and it not being organized, because really you should be coming in there organized as all hell.
100%. I mean,
You know,
Yoli said she would have stayed up all night the night before to put together a book and make
right.
sure that she does. I mean, once you ever do a presentation where something like that starts out bad, it's hard to recover. And these were critical. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this again. I think Hitler told her, we found out when we were reading the transcript, that Hitler said, "What are you going to do about standing, Ms. Taylor?" And then he said it again in open. They needed to do something with standing, and I throw out, like, I don't know if this is a ridiculous thing, but at least it's standing, where maybe say, hey, I didn't give my third, fourth, or fifth cousin or whoever it was permission to use our shared chromosomes to take an ancestry test. Where's my signed release? At least that's standing. That gets you in the room. And then, like, going back to the judge days, when he signed that order, Audrey, you'll remember it, when he finally on the motion to compel IGG, he had said in there, this is a case of first impression because it's dealing with DNA. There's not a lot of legal
Yes,
authority, right? Make
correct.
some argument for standing, man. She might have won that one. Stop with the policies and procedures. He told you during the closed hearings he doesn't want to hear that. Do you want to win or not? I'm sorry. I mean, I just give my opinion per the First Amendment, but it was sloppy. You have, one of the defense attorneys, you don't even know if he's there or not. He's sitting back there like he's on Twitter or X or whatever, and then he's out the door. Now we have the new one coming in, but they need to get serious here. This is it's a capital case.
Yeah.
Well, there was a hearing on the Karen Reed case, and the defense attorney was so organized. He had everything in the book for the, that's how it's supposed to be. I don't know if it's lack of resources with Ann Taylor in her office, but
Hey,
She
hey.
might be, one of my people said, I mean, I've got there's a guy in Japan who's been one of my top followers on Spotify. I mean, since the beginning. And he's like, isn't she on another, like a Skylar Mead, another DPK? Maybe she's spread too thin. She's got two major DP cases right now.
I mean, look, I think of COVID. We just got out of COVID. I was an essential worker at a business, and there was a lot of freaking people that were out. We had 25% workforce. Guess what? We had to buck up.
Yeah.
We worked 65, 70 hours a week at some points. We had to buck up. It is what it is.
But I
Buck
hate
up.
to say, but I mean, she was a public defender for a lot of years, and so maybe she's
Yeah.
used to having, like the paralegals, the legal support that could put together these things for you. When you're hanging a shingle for the first time, and she's only been in private practice for less than a year, you might not have the money to be able to hire someone to come in and do that for you. So you try to do it yourself, but then you're spreading yourself so thin.
Yeah,
There's only so many
but
hours in a day.
but the
but
judge. Oh,
if
go ahead.
if you don't put if you don't put in extra work, you don't reap the reward. So yes,
Right.
I can see you being that busy, but you know what? I guarantee if you knock this project out, you'll be so much better. You'll you, you sorry, I don't know what that is. You'll be so much better at what you're doing for your career.
100%.
You would just blossom and learn from it. So it's a learning experience. I understand, you know, this
I know, but I think she might also be spreading herself too thin. She's got two major DP, two major cases, capital cases, and she's got Koberger, which is, in my opinion, the biggest case in the country right now.
yeah,
I've felt that way since when we first learned about this case, CJ, way back when. We knew it was going to deal with DNA evidence, it was going to deal with
the
Fourth
world,
Amendment issues, it was going to deal with the public's right to know, you're going to deal with the First Amendment. Why take on Skylar Mead too? I mean,
right?
those are two big
Exactly.
cases,
Yeah. You
and then
shouldn't
whatever
have
else she's doing.
this is a worldwide case. You got people from across the pond that make Idaho 4 videos every day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was the hearing was really weird, and the way the judge did it, and he had the sealed evidence hearing, and then he had them argue it publicly. But how you gonna do that when
Good
you
point,
put them in a
Nolan.
position
Good
where
point.
Well,
how are you supposed to be arguing the facts if they're sealed? So you're arguing and you're saying little tidbits, thing one and thing two. That's
yeah.
what the judge was saying to her, because she said, thing one is this and thing two is this.
Right.
I would have said the same thing. Like, you need to have this prepared because I ain't got. Listen, I really do have all these other cases. I don't have time to sit here and look through the work that should have already been prepared for me when I got it. So I see where he's coming from, and this is what's making me worried too because of that stuff that was taking place as well. Aaliyah brings up a really good point. Will all the things still be sealed? Do we really think the trial will be televised? I have some doubts, but I hope I'm wrong, or at least 75% of the trial will be behind closed doors. And that's a good question because
I think, yeah.
now
I
that we're
think
seeing this stuff go this direction, could it be a thing where it's like, hey, that coffee cup don't work no more?
Well, you
Well,
know
wasn't
what?
the
You know
same?
who's going, you know who I think Hitler's worried about is the media coalition. I think the only reason why we got that transcript is because the media coalition, they came back right before the 23rd, and they basically said, this has got to stop with the sealing of everything. Okay, so then he released the transcript. If they think they're going to put this trial behind closed doors and everything, I think the media is going to come in and do something about it.
Yeah, well,
I
didn't he? I mean, isn't there like a motion, like in the transcript itself, he was saying, I don't want to have to kick them out.
I
the
hope
family.
I hope they don't mess it up, because we've seen how much they'll push the limits and go past the limit that they should even go, and the courts have been very generous when it comes to the courtroom airtime on cameras regarding the kind of line stepping that other people have done. I hope that don't happen.
Yeah,
I
it's gonna
really
be it's
hope.
gonna be interesting to see with these, a lot of speculation going around. I'm not going to speculate, but there's a motion in limine regarding family members. It's a state motion. So I'd be curious to see what that's about, because it's from the
Right.
transcript the other day, it
Yes.
sounded like there were family members that were hoping to get into the courtroom for the open session.
Right.
And he said, yeah, I think that's what he said, right? Right, CJ? He said, Judge Shipley said, I don't want to have to kick them out. I don't know who
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
them think that they could be here. There's another room that they can go into if they want. So
It's a
Right.
now
public
there's
hearing.
this in limine motion about family members in the
Oh my
courtroom.
God. They can't do that. I
What
don't think
the?
they can, but look at
Yeah,
what's.
because Steve G was out there doing interviews because he wasn't allowed to go in. You had Bill Thompson telling him way back in the day, trust us, we have so much, to the Gonsalves family. Trust us, we have so much. You're just going to have to wait until trial so you can see it all.
Right,
And now they might not let him?
right,
That's messed
right.
up. That's messed up.
I,
That's
I, I,
messed up.
I don't see a case this big not being televised. I just, I can't,
It
I think
has to
that
be.
it has to be. You're right,
I mean,
CJ.
It's
it has to be.
important.
We've had so many conversations about the dangerous precedent that this case is establishing. Anybody should be able to go into any courtroom in the country and watch proceedings, including pretrial. And everything is under seal here. Like the Media Coalition, Wendy, that attorney said, the press is the eyes and ears of the public. We're here to make sure, I mean, she said it in a nice way, that the judge is doing his job and that the prosecuting's doing their job, because they have a lot of power. They can go out and sign warrants, and you're not there, defense counsel, and you're not there to speak. So we're here to make sure, and that's how the founding fathers set up this country.
Right.
And I think that if Hitler has any idea that he's going to try to seal this trial, I think that the Media Coalition would return. They'd go up to the Supreme Court of Idaho, and do they really want to look at a possible getting something sent back down on a First Amendment issue by
Yeah.
closing this here? Why? What are they hiding?
I mean, is this,
You know,
I like, that's why I get the feeling it's like the CIA. Like
yeah,
something's happening here.
Yoli, I mean, this
Well,
this is the beginning of this case, and it's got to stop.
okay, so there's this series called Lioness. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's on Amazon Prime, Paramount, whatever. It's a series, and in that series, there's Marine, and she's a woman, and she is a trained unaliver. And there's a scene where she unalives two people within like less than a minute
Wow.
with the stabulator. Yeah.
No, I never heard of that.
Yeah. It's a series. So you think about that and you think, could it be possible that maybe it's something military or CIA is going on? But I don't know.
Well, I mean, there was agents already there before the crime took place. They were investigating something.
Yeah.
And there was quite a few. You were talking 50 to 60 agents already that were around there.
CJ, can we talk about one of the other motions in limine that's under seal? That very favorite topic of yours, the 911 call.
Oh
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about that too. Yeah, go ahead.
Can we do it now? Is that all right?
Yeah. Is that
Okay.
Let me see.
If you go to the case summary page, CJ, you
All
are
right.
going to see it's on page 71, about halfway down. It's a sealed document.
All right.
224. You're looking for February 24th, 2025. We're not going to see this one because it has a little lock and key.
What
Subject,
page?
it's 71 of the case summary page.
All right. Hold on. All right. 70. Whoop. All right. 71. Let's see
It's,
here.
yeah, about halfway. You see motion in limine regarding investigative genetic genealogy. This is the states. And then right under it, there's that lock and key device that tells you this is a closed, sealed document, subject document, motion to redact or seal newly filed record, motion in limine regarding 911 call.
Huh.
I think you know why that is.
Go ahead. What do you think,
Because,
Yoli?
because
Oh,
of
I'm sorry.
the medical amnesty law that they have.
Yeah.
If somebody calls in Idaho and says, you know, there's somebody here unconscious or maybe drugs, we don't know.
Right.
They're confidential. They don't have to be exposed or be charged with anything.
Or the caller. Yeah.
Would the
Yeah.
defense know? Is the defense alerted, or is that kept from them as well?
I think it's
I
kept
think the
from
defense.
them.
No, I don't know. I think the defense knows.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
I
think
would
so?
think they do.
Oh, maybe not. I mean, I have
I
no
don't
idea.
think so. I don't think so because I think the amnesty law. Because when we were getting into it,
Yeah.
because I was saying, hey, if they were called in for an OD, that's automatic unconscious in the records, and you're talking about the records from them. I think that's a kind of a law that it protects those. I maybe if the state would introduce them.
Well,
I think,
why wouldn't they? All right, this says it right here, just by reading this, just the clear and unambiguous language. Subject
Yeah.
document, motion to redact newly sealed file. If this was medical record, wouldn't they have known that back on November 13th, 2022? What's new? What's new? What's new about it 2+ years later? And when we talk
Sealed
about
file.
generally that we have never heard this 911 call, the public has never heard it. The public
well,
has no transcript of it. This entire 911, and you've got a situation here where law enforcement's telling us there were 6 people in this house. 2 of them survived the night. 4 did not. 2 of them were in the house. The crimes allegedly occurred between 4 and 4:25 a.m. Moscow Police Department doesn't arrive there until almost noon. That's the infamous 8-hour gap. And in between there was a 911 call. Why has the public not heard this 911 call? Redacted a transcript of it. If their concern is the privacy of the person that called in, they have ways they can change their voice. So now they want to now leave
Yeah, they can
something
even
out.
yeah,
blur.
but they might be saying names too in the background as well of people because I'm sure it was a horrible thing, but you got to think
Oh,
about it
yeah.
like this too. Richard Allen's, there's stuff coming out now with Delphi that when that person said get down the hill,
Mhm.
that bridge guy wasn't even in the area for the recording to get picked up. Like the voice got picked up. So, and that recording has never been released except for a small split couple seconds of it, and that's it. You see a video, and then you just hear "Get down the hill." Like that's it, and that's what's scary because look what Delphi was able to do to Richard Allen. Whether you think he's guilty or not, just look at how they made sure that. I mean, you only had so many people that was even allowed to go, and you had to stay out in line. They camped all around the courthouse,
Yeah.
They
and
made it as
had to be.
uncomfortable as possible to
Oh,
be there.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. And there was nothing being televised. There was not that. Like, look at all the secrecy with that one, and now you hear confessions of a person that initially should have been a suspect already. And so it's like, where's the justice in that? And so that's why, imagine if OJ's case, and I'll always compare it to it because there's so many different similarities with it. When you look at OJ's case, imagine if OJ's case wouldn't have been televised with when it
Mhm.
comes to the technology and it comes to that kind of DNA and it comes to the kind of evidence that's being put out there and the connections and all these different things. And imagine if that wasn't televised. Uh, how could you would sit there and go, how in the heck did this happen? Because supposedly there was all of this, and then as it comes out, you see all the evidence that there was, and it's like, holy hell, even if the glove didn't fit because you used a latex glove under a shrunken one, well, no shit, Sherlock, it's not going to get on. Take the latex glove off and get the same size of glove that's new. uh so you already knew, like, right there, like, holy heck.
Wouldn't you
Imagine if that was silenced,
Right.
that's horrible.
No,
And I
I'm a
mean,
big proponent. I mean, I think criminal trials should be
yeah,
made public. There's certain examples, like if it's a juvenile, family
right.
court or whatever, I understand that. But this is a dangerous precedent that's being set right here, that you can arrest
Oh,
someone, charge them with 5 first-degree felonies, 4 unalivings, and have 70% of the pretrial be under seal and no gag and a gag order, so that none of the attorneys can come out and ever give a press conference, or law enforcement ever give an interview like you see in every other criminal case in this country. I don't understand the secrecy of this case. I don't know if he did it. I don't know if he didn't do it. I don't know if there was a team of people, he was involved, he went, we don't know. But the thing about it is, 70% of the evidence has been under seal, and we were about 4 months away from trial.
well, look at this look at this interesting thing when it comes to the 911 call. The calls go to Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So, Caddy has a good question. Wouldn't Pullman, Washington have to be involved because the 911 calls go to Washington State?
They must have some contract, though, with them that
Oh, they do. There's a
yeah.
lot. When
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, when I was there, they are like the little brother that is screwing everybody over, and the bigger brother's the one that knew how to build it the right way, and
Right.
they're making their success off of the right way, and the little brother is just taking shortcuts all over the place just to trying to be like the older brother. They copy so much from Washington, especially Pullman. Moscow, if you ever watch any of their city hall meetings,
Oh
and
yeah, I remember we used to watch those.
yeah, they envy Pullman, Washington with everything that they're doing.
Hmm.
Like, it's so crazy. It's so crazy how they just envy Pullman. And so I'm sure they have a whole bunch of contracts set up when it comes to next door. That's interesting though. Thank you, Caddy. So it's not just Idaho law, it would have to include Washington state law as well.
Right.
And is Washington state, now we were looking it up when it comes to the 911 call and it comes to the amnesty law. Well, that's for Ohio, or that's for Idaho. Would that apply in Washington? Because the call was going to Washington and the person that picked up the call was a Washington state resident. That's a Washington state business, the dispatch center.
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't that have to follow Washington state law? That's an interesting question if anybody wants to find out. Does Washington state also have the amnesty law? And would that have some kind of effect in the courtroom when it comes to the 911 call and the unconscious, quote, unconscious person? Because it could mean something else coming from Washington state than it does
Right.
Idaho. And at the same time, you also have to ask, is Idaho able to take the what you would consider unredacted record and then apply their redactions because of their law when it comes to presenting it in a courtroom too? Those are that'd be interesting, especially with this, because that could tell you a lot. You figure out those
Mm-hmm.
questions, and I guarantee you can get You're either at the same spot that you were, where it's like, hey, it could be called in for an OD, they have amnesty, or we could find something else out more about the 911 call that maybe we never even knew just based off those questions.
Well, I mean, we're speculating here that this is a medical reason why they're looking to seal, and that would be an
Yeah.
excellent reason to do it. What some of my listeners are speculating is that it depends. I love the fact that I have listeners that are on every side of the spectrum. It's almost like what a future jury would look like. Some of my listeners feel he is 100% guilty. The others feel he's a scapegoat. What some of them are saying is maybe there's some language on there that would make law enforcement not look very good. Some description of what they saw, whoever called in.
Yeah.
Others are saying maybe it's to incriminate BK, like we saw someone that, whatever, Bush, something like that. It's just, I don't, this is the problem when there's not transparency. CJ, a year ago when we were having the same conversation about this lack of a 911 call, I think you brought up the point of the Dorman trial. Was the Dorman the father had just been arrested or something. It was about a year and a half ago. And they immediately in Ohio released, what was it, CJ? It was the cop speaking to 911, and you saw him. So it's the body cam, it was the body in the car, and then when he gets out and he's approaching, and thank goodness they blurred out the children on the ground.
Yeah, off
But
to the side. Yeah.
right, and he was sitting all casual, sitting on the step.
Yeah, like
With
he had
his
just worked out or something.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So that was, we have, possible essay over in Long Island. They've released partial 911 calls there. Do you remember when that one
Yeah.
woman, who was it, down south, she faked that she had been kidnapped. She saw a baby on the side of the road and they
Oh my
couldn't find
Yeah.
God.
her.
Yeah.
911 call immediately released. What is it about
Yeah.
this 911 call that the public has not heard one word from it, either in
Well,
a transcript or release?
that's why we have to explore if the whole amnesty law and how it works with the courts now that it's Washington state. We got to figure that out, because if it's not, right? Because this whole time we can say, look, it probably isn't released because of the amnesty. Okay. Now, if we figure out there's like no loopholes to do that, then we can eliminate the amnesty from it. We can eliminate the amnesty from it, and then we have to pound down on that question even more. Well, why not? Is it not being released when it doesn't even have to do with amnesty?
And that's
That's
right. And that's pre-arrest. I mean, so you had the two people that made those decisions are long gone. The two faces of Moscow police were in charge. It's true, it's their jurisdiction. Was Captain Lanier, the face of MPD. He pretty much and then you had Chief Fry come in once in a while. They had to make the decision. It was bottom line going to be their jurisdiction. We're not going to release a photograph of suspect vehicle one. We're going to use two stand-ins, one with the sunroof. We're not going to release any portion of the 911 call. We're not going to release any photographs of anything from around the house. We're not going to release nothing. They
And we're going to
released
destroy the
nothing
house.
pre-arrest. Nothing.
right.
So it goes back to what Yoli was saying. This sounds like it's don't want a three-letter federal agency. This doesn't sound like this is a state. Unfortunately, it's the times that we live in, but unalivings happen every day, throughout the country. Maybe not four, but they're not hidden like this. This is the one thing that
It bothers
is
me. It's always bothered me. And then what is known publicly, it's like doesn't make sense. It
right.
None of the reasoning makes
Whoa.
sense.
Okay. So I got to ask you a question now, then, because this whole time I've sat here and approached it like it was Daddy Green really controlling Moscow and everything that was taking place. Are you telling me, with this whole agency thought that you're having, that it could be the agency telling President Green to do that stuff?
You know, anything's possible. You hear crazy things. Anything's possible. I mean, we don't know that, but
Well, yeah, it's like I've had Mr. G. He's come on my channel a couple of times, and he said anything good that this non-dissemination order was supposed to do. I mean, it's caused so many bad things. You know, it was supposed to protect. It was supposed to give him a good and this, that, and the other thing. But it's led to these. I believe it 1,000%. It has led to these wild speculations. From he is a CANNIBAL to he is a all of these things on the other end, that this one's involved, that one hoodie's standing by, so he looks like he's got a GUN in his, just all of these wild speculations because they have everything under
and
seal.
yeah, that's why he couldn't get a fair trial in Latah County, because there was so much speculation, and the speculation was caused because of the gag order. Because
The gag order did,
people will naturally speculate. That's what they're going to do.
Right.
And with the internet, I mean, it just happened all, and like CJ said, across the world. I mean, there are just some wild theories about this case. And someone made a good point. They're like, how are they going to find somebody that's never heard about this case? Are you going to have to go up into, Montana, find someone like the Unibot that lives in a cabin somewhere?
Yeah,
Everyone's
off
heard
the
this
grid,
case.
off the
Right.
grid people, and yeah, it's, I don't know, it
just
it
seems
it needs to be televised. Period.
Yeah, the secrecy is just too much. It's I thought this judge was going to probably be more liberal and really scrutinize the documents as to whether they should be sealed or not. And I think he did a couple documents, but he's pretty much keeping everything, which
Right. And he signed some more, things to be filed, stipulations that they've gone to, and again, it's not just the state, it's the defense as well. I mean, it was Ann Taylor who drafted that first version of the non-dissemination order, and the two of them, Thompson and her, January 3rd, 2023, they went to Megan E. Marshall and she signed that first one. So it's not just the state. And if it were up to defense, we'd have no cameras at all in the courtroom. They wanted all cameras out. Then Judge, said, okay, well, we'll make it be the county camera, or we wouldn't even have what we have.
Well, I was so angry. I was like, Judge, take control of your courtroom. Come on.
Well,
Yeah.
but here's the thing: both the prosecution and the defense didn't want cameras, so that could be even more. Why wouldn't the defense want cameras? Like,
Well, it goes back to what, your coffee cup, CJ, because the media was going in there. They weren't listening to Judge. He told them stop zeroing in on Coburg, or they were zeroing in like on
no.
his hands,
I'm not
right?
talking about the press. I'm talking about Ann Taylor.
Why would she want it?
Oh,
She didn't want cameras, and Judge allowed it anyway. And shout out to him, because I appreciate it, because we really couldn't have had any of this stuff on camera if Judge would have said, okay, defense and prosecution, I agree. Bam, no cameras. We would have never had any. So when it comes to all of this, and as time is going on, do you think it could be a possibility? Because we're talking about no cameras in the courtroom right now. Do you think it could be a possibility where Ann Taylor would again want to say, look, I don't want cameras in the courtroom, and they don't, obviously the prosecution doesn't, so then Judge Hippler will just, boom, shut it down? That could happen too, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean,
it's
why would they want it not on camera, though? This is huge.
Well, this is both of them. I mean, why do they have all the evidence under seal? Why has Ann Taylor insisted on every discovery request she's every supplement? The first one, I think that was public, but every one of them, the 22, 23, whatever it is, supplemental, under seal.
Right.
Why?
So why wouldn't you want it on tape,
defense.
though? Why wouldn't you want cameras in the courtroom to then show, look, you guys, public, this is why they didn't want any of this stuff unsealed.
Right.
And you're looking at the byproduct of what is there in front of them. And then, because public opinion makes a difference too.
Well,
As
it's
much
the
as it's
problem,
bad,
right?
it's good too because that helps educate the general public on a whole bunch of things. Like, this is gonna, like, affect so many different things than just court. This is gonna affect people, like, somebody that's in school right now, that's like in high school or something, and they're watching this and they're seeing this take place. It might make them want to be the best damn lawyer they can be in the future just because they're seeing this. It's all education. And also, look, people, this is how you can get caught. Don't be doing this crap anymore. Like,
Right.
the
Right.
education value was so huge, and the technology that's going to be used when it's coming to this case, it's all educational benefits too. And so that's what I'm not understanding. Like, why wouldn't you? But that's something that they
I was
they they
thinking,
decided a long time ago. Judge was fine with it. But since we're talking about the no cameras, I thought I'd bring it up, because what if
yeah,
they do get to that point and they're
I
like,
was
They
yeah,
might.
we
They
don't want them
might.
either.
I was
They
thinking
might.
that maybe she didn't want cameras because maybe Brian is autistic or has Asperger's and was freaking out
Well,
about cameras. I don't know.
the reason
Public
why
public
the reason
image,
why she didn't
I
want the
guess.
cameras is because the media, when they were, remember at the beginning of the case, they would come in, they'd set up their cameras,
Oh
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
zeroing in on him, on his hands, his crotch, his
Yeah.
face.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
judge
I know.
said, he issued an order, don't do that. They still did it, they still did it, they still did it. And that's
Yeah.
when she said she wanted cameras out of the courtroom, out altogether.
Well, because
Yeah.
probably because Brian was getting uncomfortable. I mean, it was obviously. I mean, it was just a bad situation all the way around. Just bad.
Yeah. I mean, and they were. That's why I did what I did, because they
That's why
were
I started watching CJ because he had that coffee cup.
Yeah. See,
they
And
CJ,
he had the
unlike
coffee.
MSNBC and CNN and everybody else, CJ was complying with
She was like,
Judge's order.
for sure, because I know how
definitely
important.
complying with rules.
I knew back then it was going to be such a benefit of educational uh information for not only this generation but the generations to follow. The education is going to be so huge with us, and it's important for a society and a species to be able to, like, you have to be able to see this. You have to try and understand it. It
Right.
should be available, so that way if you don't understand it and there's already a verdict and 10 years will go by, you can still be a student, go back to it and learn all of this stuff even more in the future. and and
Right.
and I know, like, like, court TV, they were doing all that stuff, and that is a legitimate reason. Like, look, I don't want you zooming in on my dude's nostril hairs. It's not cool. But judge should have, like, put his damn foot down and said, look, if you ain't gonna do it, this is why I was saying, judge, if they ain't gonna do it, I'll do it right. I'm
Right.
some independent dude, and you know what? I'm good. I'll do it right. I'm not gonna mess around. I'm gonna do it like it should be, and I'm gonna do it the best of my ability. And that's the kind of thing. It's like, okay, so he gave them their chance. They still did it after he already decided that they were going to have it in there. Now, did they not do it as much? Yeah, they weren't zooming in crazy, but they still were going to him and showing him in a little window where you could see his lap and in the top of his head, and just him and Ann Taylor at times. And I still had to use the coffee cup. But at this point, after her
Yeah.
going through all of this stuff, and her and her whole team are like saying 100% that he's not guilty, uh, then I would imagine that she would want people to see what's taking place, because the best way is just to have transparency.
Well, they remember, it was, I guess it was Alyssa Massoff, but when it came to the getting close to oral argument on the motion in limine regarding IGG, she filed a document saying that they wanted the hearing to be open. They wanted all the briefings to be open to the public, and they wanted the public to be able to watch that hearing. And that's when the media coalition comes back, and that then Hippler's in there in that one hearing. All of a sudden, we found out that there was going to be a hearing like at 3 p.m. Boise time. No notice of anything. It was the media coalition because they weren't interveners again. They came in as interested parties this time. But, he's up there. And I've told these guys to knock it off with, to keep submitting these stipulations to file things under seal. What happens the next couple days? They send a stipulation and he signs it, He
So I
signs it.
initially thought that they did that to kind of control that media machine in the beginning. But I think Anna started to realize the prosecution might be more amenable when they're not scrutinized. And so the more that that's kind of sealed, the better the state behaves, because they're very worried about their image and the media machine that's going on.
Let them panic. That's when you make mistakes, is when you panic and you're not mentally prepared to make decisions with emotion involved.
True.
Good point.
And this is what because I've always, ever since I started the show, and then when I started to go out on location, it was always a dream that I would be able to not only report on the case since day one, but also have been out there before. And I also wanted to go to the trial when it started, to be able to report from the trial inside and outside every single day, as long as it took. And I was going to try and figure out a way. So it could literally be a possibility, because if Steve G ain't getting in, they sure as hell ain't letting CJ getting in. And so it could be a complete waste, huh? It could be a complete waste.
That would be a full circle for you, because I think you're the only journalist who has been at the start at the Sales University, where everything started for him. You were there, and you were also in Pullman, and you were also in Moscow. So I think it'd be great if you could go to the trial, CJ. It would be full circle for you, I think, huh?
I don't know if I'll even be able to. You know what I'm saying? If they're not even gonna let Steve G in, they're not going to let me.
Well, we don't know what that motion in limine says, CJ. They could be, that could be to allow them to participate in further hearings. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because maybe they want him in there.
You can't tell. You just see the name of the motion and you think, what? It's like the one with autism, and I mean, it's like, what? I mean, you have to read the document.
Because I think I could be like, I'm not being like confident or anything like that, but with all the knowledge that I have up here, the experience, and then the respectfulness about it that I've shown over this whole time, I think I would be one of the best people to frickin' report on the trial when it comes to everything, you know?
I think you would. I think you would. You know, I mean, it's like I say, I mean, you took the time, you know, you've literally followed this guy's journey, you know, from where he started to where he ended up, you know, and to cover the trial. This is a massive trial. This trial, I call this the trial of the century right now. You know, they called the OJ trial the trial of the century. I think that this one is, because it's horrendous crimes. It shocks the senses, right? Shocks the Fourth Amendment issues, the First Amendment issues, the secrecy of the case. Now it's coming out that maybe he has autism, you know, and it's just an 8-hour gap. You have 2 people that survived, and the police aren't called. Everything's secret. This is a massive case. This is going to be one that they're going to be learning about in law schools and in government classes for years to come, I think.
Yeah, that's why it's important it gets televised. How much notice are they gonna? I mean, how much notice do you get with that typically when it comes to being able to report from a trial, or they're not gonna let Steve G in, kind of thing? Like what kind of timetable are we looking at? Because that's a huge trip.
Okay, and assuming that this is what this in limine motion is, we're going to find out when it hits the docket, because it is a public docket, the one about the family members. The responses are due March 14th. The replies are due the 22nd. Then at that point, the briefings are closed. Then the hearings are the 9th, and then Hippler said that he's holding open the 10th as well. All of these motions in limine, let's go ahead and pretty much assume it's going to be a 2-day deal, just like the motions to suppress were. And then he makes his ruling. like he did this last time. It took him what, about just under 4 weeks to make his rulings. Then we're going to find out, if that's what the rulings are on all of these in limine motions. But right
But
now,
yeah, I did pick up on the transcript that, and Aaliyah has a good point here, but I did pick up on the transcript that he said something like, I don't want to have to kick them out. I don't.
Yeah, he did. He said that you're 100% correct, because they were
Yeah.
behind closed doors. We didn't know they had this conversation happening because it was a closed sealed hearing, but it was toward the end.
Yes.
And I think it was Nye who mentioned, we have some family members outside and they want to know, they thought that they'd be able to come in. And he said, I don't know where they got that impression. And hey, Hitler was right, because he had said, the order said, this is the only way the public is going to be through the TV. And we're going to give like a 15 or a 20-minute lead time to the Idaho Supreme Court. Then the administrator is going to publish it like on Twitter and whatnot. So I don't know where they got the idea that they would be able to go in. It was maybe wishful thinking, but that's exactly where he said that, Yoli. You're 100% correct. Hitler said words to the effect, I don't want to have to kick them out. There's another room where they can have, how they have the CC, they'll have it like in another courtroom with a television. I think that's what he made available to them. But again, we're speculating as to what this in limine motion is relative to family members.
Well,
We'll find out hopefully tomorrow.
It'd
if
be
it's
nice
published.
it'd be nice to be able to have the opportunity, because I think it would change everything for the future. Honestly, if I was able to have that opportunity, I probably wouldn't be sitting at this desk anymore. It'd be a desk somewhere else.
I think so.
And Aaliyah has a great point. And this, could that be what? Let's go back to, and I don't know if you're bringing it up for this, Aaliyah, but you do make a great point. Also, I'm kind of wondering, I'm going back to the witness conversation that we were having. Could this be witnesses for your alibi?
Family member.
If the trait.
Oh yeah.
IgG, the genetics.
It's still not going to work.
No, I think Audrey had a good point last night she had a great live where, Audrey, you came up and you thought, and there is a motion in limine about even though they lost all the DP motions last year, that they were all denied all of the motions to strike. No, hey, motion in limine, fair game. You can come back. They're coming back with the DP to try to get it knocked off the table. And Audrey, what did you say? I mean, I think that you came up with a great theory as to what this is all about.
It was the
it's another chance for her to strike the death penalty, and there's a law in Idaho where it says you shall not have the death penalty for people who meet the criteria for certain behavioral health.
Right.
So even if she just poses that, she gets it on record, and then she might be able to bring it up more so in mitigation too. So not only does she get another try to strike the death penalty, she can use it again later.
Yeah, I think that to me, just we don't know. We have to speculate. That's all we can do at this time. But I think that's it, because number one, the expert witnesses for the penalty phase, if there is one, they're not due yet. They're coming up due here next month is when they start releasing them. So why would they release something for sentencing phase when we're not even there yet, to try to get something knocked off in limine? If they can get this is huge. If she's able to get this DP knocked off the table, number one, you don't get a jury that's DP certified. They need a jury that's DP certified here. And research that I've read said that people that are DP certified that serve on juries are more inclined to vote for guilt. They're tougher, or whatever the case may be. That's the research that I've read. Number two, then they have that off the table. Okay, now we're not fighting for his life anymore. Now we're looking at life imprisonment, then there's also some people have said there may be a plea deal or something else. less of a bargaining chip in favor of the state if the DP is off the table. So I
So
think Audrey's spot on that one.
if he does fit the criteria for any reason, whether it's in the medical records or whatever psychological testing he goes through, I was also reading that there is a special proceeding, if that does happen, for the sentencing phase. However, even if she doesn't get that, either way, she might use it
for mitigation.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about that. When Audrey, did you, from your research, were you able to find out if that hearing would be now or would that be down the line in front of Hitler?
Down the line.
Down the line. Okay, gotcha.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. What an interesting conversation this evening, really.
Well, this case, CJ, I mean, it's you could just, I mean, I could literally, I mean, I know that I've been covering it for over a year now. You know, it's just basically, it's all I do on my channel. But there's never something that you run out of time. I mean, I could talk about this 7 days a week, 24 hours. You know,
oh, I know. I told
something to
Busby.
talk about this case.
Busby just has been introduced to this case, and he last night, because I went over to AR's and I was up there for like the last hour of his live last night, and we were talking so much stuff, and he's like, "Dude, I'm trying to stay caught up, bro." And I'm like, "Trust me."
Oh my!
There's so much to talk about, dude. And there has been for years. Okay.
There are I mean, there's people that have been following my pod that say, I came across your podcast. I wish I didn't because I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning thinking about this case, trying to figure out why it was that 911 wasn't called for 8 hours, and then you come over here and you go somewhere else. And
I'm stuck. You know where I'm stuck? I'm stuck when they arrested him at his home in Pennsylvania. Like, I'm really stuck on that. Like, I have my thoughts and opinions, but they're just thoughts and opinions. But, I'm really interested in that part because it's pretty interesting. The judge who signed the warrant. But anyway,
it's been interesting since it took them 3 days to come out with a press conference, Steve, and update their own community. That's when it really became interesting.
Wasn't there a time when the mayor, wasn't there an email that came out, the mayor to the chief of police said, "Dude, you got to get out there and speak to the people. We got press all over the place.
Yeah,
you got to get out and speak."
When their community and they're like, "Yes, stay vigilant, and you're safe. We don't know who it is, but you're safe." And then you got local crews going, "Can you tell us how it's safe, but you don't have the suspect or a profile? Just stay vigilant." And it's like, oh my gosh.
CJ, do you remember the early days? I mean, they had just 8 hours between the crimes and when they finally turned up, right? Within like 2 or 3 hours, no threat to the community. It's like, how? And then it was like, oh, it was a targeted attack. It wasn't a targeted. I was like, the left hand didn't know what the right. You'd have the mayor come out and say one thing. You had the chief of police come out and say something else. You had, Green come out and say it was like it's a targeted attack. No, it's not a targeted attack. It was the house was targeted. No, it wasn't. It was one of the and then no, it was. It was like they didn't know what they were talking about. But I still will never understand how they could have come out first day within a couple of hours and say there was no threat to the community when you have no idea of what you're looking at.
No.
And I was going to say, just you saw Fry's face when he was very serious. That was when it changed. That one show we had where you showed his face. Yeah. He wasn't like all the other times. It was more like he was like.
I think it was the 16th or the 17th, and that's when he started stressing and said that he's changing up the team and that he's sending some of them home and bringing new ones in as a refresher for the holidays. And it's like, wait a minute, dude, you should want the same people that have been working on it the whole
Right.
time. Why would you? And then later on, we hear about the Brady Giglio stuff, and so it was like, oh, does that have something to do with it? Like, oh shit, we found out somebody's kind of shady in the investigation. We need to ship them out and bring some new ones in. That
CJ,
It's
was
fu-
that your
it's
live with the desk tie? Did you say
yeah,
that Fry had a clip on it and that's what
same
he
one.
uses?
If you go to every interview, you'll see the folds off to one side, and you'll see the same dust pattern in every single interview. And this clip on goes all the way back to when they had their old Moscow PD headquarters, when it was by the grub truck, where the
What
grub
about
truck
what
works.
I think around that time is
Same
when
one.
he pulled up with the U-Haul truck. Wasn't it around that time, mid December 16th,
Did they just put a
17th? He pulls
picture?
up. It's like people say, "Oh, this case is very strange. That case is very this is." I said, "Tell me a case where the chief of police pulls up with a U-Haul truck, and the people, his law enforcement officers, are like moving in storage people, pulling things out of a crime scene before there's any suspect arrested." Has anyone ever heard of anything like that ever?
No. It's like
Audrey's done a dynamite video about that.
it's crazy.
About that, the U-Haul truck.
Call Chuck.
And the
You know,
vans that look like they were size 9.
so on the day that they arrest Brian Koberger, they have a cleaning crew going out there around the same time.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, you obviously knew you were going to be arresting Brian Koberger. And if you didn't, then that's a problem because you're not all on the same page, which it wouldn't surprise me if he had no idea. Fry had no idea they were going to arrest Brian Koberger.
I bet you they sat at their desk watching the living document for updates.
Didn't you hear? I mean, didn't we all hear when
That's what they did.
Detective Payne, when we did the reading the other night, and Detective Payne said, "Well, who was in your powwow sessions?" He mentioned Fry. Fry would come in. I don't think that Fry would be one that would tolerate, people just doing what they want under him. No, I think that he was
Oh
involved
no,
in every step. He
that's
was
why
like
he
you
got
say,
mad in December. That's why he had one of the interviews where he was stressing extra hard that it was their investigation and
we're in
everything
charge.
goes through them. Yeah, he was upset. He
We're in.
wanted it to be known. This is not theirs. This is ours. We
But
determine.
the
We
FBI,
This is a city. This is a city of Moscow investigation. We don't care that the feds are here. We don't care that this is we're in charge here. Same press conference, I believe, where that one journalist stood up and was challenging him a little bit, and you could see his face got a little red. He didn't like it because she was asking questions.
yeah.
Maybe that the softball type stuff that he was used to getting all the time. She was asking, and she's like, "Well, what about the two roommates? Are they persons of are they witnesses? Oh, they're not witnesses. Not with and what comes out the affidavit of probable cause. DM is
Yeah, because
standing
they
there. She
were.
sees a guy hears and see. She's not a witness. What is she?
No, I was gonna say yeah, because those people were from Spokane, Washington, and they don't know about the Moscow bullshit that much, so that's why they were asking those questions.
Yeah, she was good.
well, the feds, they had an investigation for federal stalking, and that was blurted out by Detective Mowry.
Oh, okay. You had sussed that a while back, Yoli.
He
That's what
blurted it
that was
out.
all about.
He
You
said,
had said
well,
that.
I had communications. I was CC'd on communications regarding the FBI's investigation for stalking into
Right.
Koberger. So he was included in the emails regarding the FBI's investigation. That's how I understood his testimony, but he blurted it out. And still Brian hasn't been charged with stalking, federal
No,
or state.
no.
Especially crossing state lines.
Clip on. Yeah.
That's huge when you cross state lines. Yeah, it's
I know. What's it been? 2 years since Bill Thompson stood up in open court and said that there was no relationship. There was no They said Oh, well, yeah, in the affidavit of probable cause. We did this because we wanted to see if he was stalking any of the victims, any of their associates, any of their friends. Bill Thompson stands up and tells, well, what's his Mr. PowerPoints, Dr. PowerPoints, when they had that one, very memorable
Yeah.
PowerPoint presentation
Yeah,
of
with the
Thompson
change
telling
of venue.
everybody to share the affidavit of
Yeah.
probable cause. Remember that? Stood up in open court and said, right.
That was hilarious.
He
It
said,
was.
he said there's no evidence that he had any relationship to anybody. We still have people in mainstream media and so forth saying that he was stalking them.
I
We
know
still
it
do.
drives me insane. It drives me insane. It's like, no, if you better believe if there was enough to charge him with stalking in Idaho, they would have done so because that would have been an aggravating factor for the death penalty.
That's
So,
true.
so
That's true.
there's not enough. He was not stalking them under Idaho law nor under federal law.
Here's another point that I had jotted down here that I wanted to ask you guys. Is there any indication anywhere that the unaliving weapon has been found? Anywhere?
There's a notation, but I think it's like a. Sorry, my voice is going. I think it's like it's a notation, but I think it's a like it missed. Not it just ended at knife.
Right.
It was in one of the pleadings, and I know one content creator reached out and asked, did they is that a mistake or did you find the knife? But they never got back to her.
Yeah, I don't think that they found it. I think that would have come out. I think that somehow,
yeah.
some way that would have been leaked. So the question then becomes, how do we know what the cause of unaliving was? We know that because it's a public record. It's been confirmed that this was not, through a wound from a firearm, or it wasn't. It was, a knife. What type?
Well, then some of them
Was it a K
injuries were
bar?
like
If
rips
it's
and
not a
tears.
K bar, then what's the sheath? What's the big deal? Then that's not the unaliving weapon.
No, it's like having the holster to the gun at the scene with the touch DNA of somebody, or
Right.
I shouldn't say touch,
But
with the transfer DNA of somebody.
okay, so you have a holster from a whatever, from a GLOCK, but the weapon was an AR. It was an AR 15 plus a 15 on that. So what's the holster has nothing to do with anything.
So, but you see, the thing is that bothers me is they did this whole when the Othram or whatever they are, they did their first they tried to build a family tree,
Yeah.
and they had a low score for these four brothers. So it was a very low score. I don't know how to say it, but in any event, they went, the lab said, why don't you reach out to one of them and see if they'll upload their DNA into the system? Like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So they go and they ask the guy, one of the brothers, to give his DNA into a database. They tell him what for, and then he's suspicious. So then they get another person in to talk about the investigation. And after that, he said, don't call me anymore. I don't want to talk to you. So they did that. But yet when they first had Brian Koberger's name on December 19th, why didn't they just find him and ask him, can we get your DNA? Just like they did. I mean,
he was already in Pennsylvania, though.
They could have found him. I mean, they could have found him. And if they were surveilling him while he was jogging, maybe go up to him and say, hey, we have want to know if we can take your DNA. It was found at a crime scene and we just want to rule you out, or, I would say no.
I mean, they should. You would think,
because it's much more dramatic to do it the way that they did. It's a lot more. You pull in. Brett Payne gets involved. He's flying. Who knew he was? We always wondered, why wasn't he at the press conference? You have the lead detective at the press conference announcing we got hey, come here, Detective Colonel Payne, come over here and explain what happened. We're like, where's Brett Payne at? He's in Pennsylvania. He's in Pennsylvania. That's who Koberger's walking down the hall into and being,
Well, they asked him
all
for his
6'1" of him next to 5'4" Brett Payne. I would have loved to have seen a visual of that. Stop laughing, Audrey.
And did they say he had like kitchen gloves on, that he walked around with kitchen gloves?
I just, it's
well, when
for,
he was taking out the garbage. I don't know. See, some of this stuff is hard
Hard to
because
remember.
that's a lot of stuff that Banfield was putting out too, back then. And we heard Gloves taking the garbage out, but
Or you thinking Sebastian?
other than that, I don't remember anything else about the Gloves. And with Brett Payne, he probably wasn't there because they probably asked him for his credentials, and he said he couldn't recall.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Oh, and the thing that he's watching everything on a drone as he's driving there.
On a cell phone, what kind of shit feed I'm just going to be honest, while you're driving, what kind of a crap feed is that going to be?
And why?
From a drone, like
Why
what?
does he need to be watching? It's not like he's giving them directions, like, you need to go south, and he's not doing anything. He's just watching. I don't get it.
Well, it's
On a
because
link from his phone.
he has worked for 5 years. Excuse me, it was 10 days. He has worked for a full 10 days trying to get this guy arrested. He was going to be there in Monroe County. And that's another thing that Leah Larkin, we have to bring up Leah Larkin's testimony here, that how could they possibly, it takes time, right, Audrey, to do these DNA tests properly. She says there is no possible way in 9 days that they could have gone from what they had with, and she's seen the discovery, gone with what Othram had, and 9 days later identified him.
It's almost like they had the degraded DNA that they found on the snap, but then all of a sudden, magically, there is a more complete profile. That's the only way you would be able to do that fast if you had the profile. But you couldn't have done it. It takes too long.
Right. I mean, look at, like, I'm trying to think, it takes time to, this is scientific. It's got to be done properly. It's got to follow certain procedures because everything in a court of law is then going to be looked at so so closely. Look at when, they do toxicology, and even if they rush them, it takes weeks to get that back.
Yeah.
DNA you're going to do in 9 days.
I
Some are speculating they had his DNA somewhere else, maybe.
Boy, that DNA
Somewhere else,
traveled.
maybe.
That DNA traveled all over the place.
Oh, it went, yeah, it went 2,000 plus. It went from the house. It went, upstairs, third bedroom, down through the house, and then it went to Meridian, which is 300 miles away, and then it apparently got on a plane. And traveled down to Othram in Houston. They have to get off at Bush Airport and then drive to. That DNA went quite a way. I'm surprised. I'm surprised we have not seen a motion in limine challenging the chain of custody, because there's just, I mean, it's just fraught with so many opportunities.
Well,
yeah, it wasn't controlled.
But I think she can do that in the trial. Like, she can attack the chain of custody in trial, and then she can do a motion. But it looks, I mean, if she does it while in trial and they look shady, the jury might think, whoa, what's going on here? Like, if she waits until the trial to say, look, there's no chain of custody. Because I know that Idaho State Lab, they scan everything they get. So it's scanned into a computerized thing. But when you have DNA going from, Boise or Meridian to all the way to Houston and then back, I mean, did it come back? Like, is it the same?
Who knows? I mean, well, that would be the argument, but yeah, that's why they do it in limine, because they don't want to have it in front, and like, you can imagine Hitler. Well, why didn't you bring this up when we did the motions in limine 5 months ago, Ms. Taylor? You know, we want to stop this. We want to have these objections in front of the jury, that the jury starts getting confused and prejudiced, and then they got to leave the room and then, come back. Hippler
Oh,
has
well, this
already
doesn't
said,
happen.
he wants this trial done. He wants it done in whatever the schedule is. He seems to think they're going to be able to start on the 11th. And I'm like, well, what if you haven't picked a jury in those 12 days or something? How do you know you're going to start on the 11th?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. It's crazy the way they operate over there. I could not operate like that. Well, Ada County is a little better, but the little hometown court, it's like,
Yeah, good luck trying to find a parking spot. You only got 8 of them. Just saying.
it's crazy. I tell you.
Go right to the front door. You got 7, probably 7. It ain't very
Okay,
many.
so who thinks that these Limine hearings are going to be public?
Weird parking lot too.
I don't know. I have no idea. He might close it and then get a redacted copy of the transcript out.
I think he's going to do exactly that, because we see that there's a couple of things under seal. So what he's probably going to do is he's going to start the hearing on the 9th at 9:00 a.m., closed, sealed to the public, and deal with the 911 call, which is under seal, the whatever couple of others that are also under seal, and then he'll open it up, and then maybe afterwards he'll decide to do exactly. I think he's going to do exactly what he did with the suppression motions, which is
That's
a
going to be
shame. I think they
wild
should.
if that 911 call gets out.
Oh,
Isn't that after all this time, since the first day we were sitting here, just even brought it up a little bit ago, since the first day, why has it not been put out? And can you imagine when that thing, if it does go public, oh my gosh, you're talking about a deep dive ASAP.
Yeah.
oh, we got a
you're
lot of
talking
stuff. Yeah,
you're talking about a deep dive, because that's one deep dive I've been wanting to do for a long time when it comes to
you've
that
been talking
911.
about that forever. You've been
Because
talking about that forever, wanting to be able to do a deep dive on the call, and it should be. I mean, there's got to be some questions that are going to be answered on that call. It's going to tell us possibly how many people were there,
why
when
it
they
took
got
4
there.
hours,
Right.
probably based off of what's being talked. That's my biggest question, is the whole 4 hours. It's one thing, who's to say, and I know it's not out there like that, but when you're talking about that smell, and you're talking about maybe because it stunk so bad and you opened your door, it was worse when you opened it, and you knew you couldn't breathe when you went outside the door, so you tried to do everything you could to stay inside the room, but then you still had access to a phone, which you could have called somebody because you were texting the roommate. So the whole 8 hours, and then the 4 hours after that, and then on top of that, the coroner medical examiner saying she's not allowed to go until an hour and a half after law enforcement shows up. That's a bunch of BS, because they're supposed to be there from the beginning too. They
Right.
have control over the body, and if it can be moved or not. Like, there's certain permissions that they have to sign off on in order for the investigations to take place. And so the whole day, it's just like, maybe that 911 call, because it's obviously going to talk about what already is there. So
Right.
you might possibly know why it took that long to get to the 911 call. And then maybe during that 911 call as well, you'll find out, well, maybe this is why it took so long for law enforcement to show up. And I hope to God it wasn't because Lanier was being a bitch, because as soon as he pulled up and said that he had to call Idaho State Police, I hope to God he didn't wait 4 freaking hours to finally drive up there, because Fry still wasn't able to make it back yet. You know what I'm saying? What the hell were you doing for your damn job, bro? If you can't even, I don't want to think it, but at the same time, how else, when you're 2 minutes down the road
Right.
and it takes you 4 hours, make that make sense, because it don't whatsoever. None.
Well, I know. And that's another point that we've
Mm.
commented on and commented on and commented on over the past it's almost a half years, it's 2 years and 3 months, 2 and a third years. This was a busy weekend in Moscow. It was a big football game, right? You had just 10 miles away. It's Parents' Weekend at Pullman. It's the week before Thanksgiving. Why is Fry deciding he's going to get out of town that weekend? Wouldn't he be there? Because you would expect that people are going to be drinking. There may be accidents. You want the chief there, or just to even like go to the football games. The chief of police, mayor, they go. They're there to support the community. Of all 52 weekends out of the year, you're going to take off that weekend. So he's gone. They couldn't find him. Lanier, you see him walking around outside. He was there, but like CJ said, he pulled up and he was probably in the car when he called ISP to come down and to,
Yeah.
they needed some help.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you even, like, you're talking 4 hours later? There couldn't have been that many. So you've seen the pictures of just like 5 or 6 students huddled up by the dumpster, and that's pretty much it.
Right.
So what do you mean, bro? Because maybe if you showed up when everybody was out front and EMS, showed up, maybe if you would have showed up then, there would have been a whole hell of a lot of witnesses that were going in there, possibly going inside, trying to find out what was going on because others couldn't. And you didn't even vet them because you didn't even know that they were there. And when you have your press conferences and you can never answer how many students or how many witnesses were outside when they showed up, they still could never answer a specific number. And that's a problem because that means you did not vet every single person.
Yeah, I think that when it comes out, we're going to find, I mean, that's my gut. Just there was a lot of mistakes that were made. It's going to come out, something like I'm sorry, but who's that little girl that they never solved? I think it's going to be that we're going to see there's a lot of mistakes that were made. Number one, they've never dealt with anything like this. So
Right.
you've got, all right, we have three. Know that there were, in as much as I take issue with Howard Blum, a lot of the things he said, I think that he did have some connections and he did report some things correctly. And one of the things that he said is that one of the first responders, he had an interview with him, just like CJ said, he opened up the door and the smell, you could just smell it from there. But how many people were in the house? What time did they summon friends? What did they do when they were in the house? This is all reasonable doubt. This is going to favor Koberger, but on the other hand, he's got to explain away that sheath. In as much because it's touch, it's transfer, it's this or that. Jury hears his DNA's on that sheath. What did Hitler say? It's probable cause every day of the week, twice on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So
Because
I've wondered about that.
Probable
sorry,
cause is a low threshold, and I think the reason why everything was denied is because these typos or negligence, like putting the
Mhm.
affidavit of Maori when it's actually the affidavit of Payne. All of those like clerical things and all the stuff that was kind of negligent. That's not enough, I don't think, to get to a Franks where
Oh
they.
no.
Yeah, it's not enough.
Nobody gets a Frank's hearing. It is impossible. That standard is. I mean, you could have. As we said before, I mean, you could have 5 statements for them intentionally, absolutely false. Knew it was false. Said it anyway. But if there's a 5th statement that by itself, standing alone, could convince Megan E. Marshall probable cause, that's it. You don't get a Frank's hearing. But you're right. I mean, we've gone over just the enormous amount of errors in the affidavit of probable cause. It is right there. It is in black and white. I mean, he's calling it the 8458, then it's the 8548 phone. He's taking a town that's in one state, putting it somewhere else. He's calling him Coburg. He's having the victims at 2 different places at one time. There's
Yeah,
just,
it's just
I think
it's
that's
like
what we're going to find.
incompetence. Like it was just sloppy. It's just they didn't. I mean, I get it that they're trying to solve a crime and they're under pressure, but
Yeah.
I mean, but that
No.
doesn't, I'm sure it
Yeah.
happens more often than not in
Well,
a lot
if
of these
Oh,
cases.
when
yeah. They probably make mistakes like that all the time.
if you take the noodle, if you don't boil the noodles long enough, it, your stomach hurts a lot,
Oh, yeah.
because it's hard to break that down in your intestines. Okay. No mention of DD driver in the new docs.
No, nothing.
Oop.
The most, Mark and Betty brings up such a good point here. The most mysterious person of all. Affidavit of probable cause. We've talked about this before, CJ. I know you and I, but affidavit of probable cause flat out names JD, throws him under the bus, names him by name. The roommates by their initials. The coroner, not the coroner, the medical examiner name is there. It's in the Pennsylvania document. They white it out. Same thing with the private driver, DoorDash driver. We don't know if it's female. We don't know if male. No name, no initials, nothing whited out. To me, there's something about that DD driver, and I can't put my finger on it. Why there's so much secrecy around him or
Because
him.
the DD driver was the one driving through Linda Lane trying to figure out where in the hell 1122 Queen Road was at, or King Road, because they kept seeing 1122 Queen Road. That was the problem. Where in the hell is
Solid.
this? Where in the hell
Solid
is this?
theory. That's a
Where in the
solid
hell?
theory that that's the car that everyone's looked at and they're thinking that, oh, well, this is what
The
Payne's talking
3-point
about.
turn.
Yeah.
You pull out and you're looking at the houses and you're like, it's not. I don't see 1122. It's not. And you do a 3-point turn and then try and come around again because you're like, man, it's somewhere around here.
CJ, and you've been out there at that hour, right? At that hour, almost a year at a
Yeah.
time. How dark is it there?
Oh my
Is
Oh,
it well lit? I mean, if you're not familiar with the area and you're just
oh,
trying to deliver this meal so you could go home because
there's
it's
a
4 in the
reason.
morning.
There's a reason that, because one of the things that I asked him when I went out there is I wanted to know, do a lot of people use those flashlights that
Hmm.
stick on the top of your head? Because that was one of the things back then about, I wonder if they used one of these, and I'm like, well, let me see how common it is. And when I was talking to people there, that it's totally common, because if a lot of the times if you're out walking your dog at night and you ain't got one, good luck trying to see in front of you
Hmm.
sometimes when you're
Phew.
going to different neighborhoods. So it's normal. It's normal for all that. I mean, hell, there's people walking all over the place. You barely have any room on the streets because of the thin roads and the crampedness that's there. But then all the
Yeah.
people are walking all over the place too, because it is hard to get a parking spot anywhere because it's all cramped up. And so everybody walks too. And so it's just it doesn't matter how dark it is. But yeah, it gets dark as hell. You're talking almost the top of the globe, and and at that point in the year, the northern hemisphere is tilted pretty much almost as far back as it's going to go when it comes to the sunlight, and so it
It's
gets
pretty
dark.
dark. CJ, when you went out there, were you surprised? Because we see the buildings, like you said, it's built because of how cramped everything is. Were you surprised at how tightly everything was? How close 1112 was to 1122? How close the quote unquote panty house was? How close it was to Sigma Chi? How compact and populated that area was with the apartments right next door? Or did you think that was about like what you would imagined it would be in
No,
terms of geographically?
it was like half the distance of everything I
Mm,
imagined it would be based off of looking at Google Maps and all that stuff. Even the bird's eye view looking down at the parking lot compared to
mm,
where the house was before,
mm-hmm,
cut that in half in real life too, because honestly, like, I'm not bullshit. Like, I pulled up right to where those bushes are at, and literally,
yeah,
in 4 or 5 steps, I was already at the cement slab in front of the
unbelievable.
in front of the sliding glass doors. It's not. It's
Well, you know,
nothing.
when you parked back there until I saw the video that you did and you narrated it and you did a really good job. If you haven't had an opportunity to whoever's listening to this either live or replay, please watch CJ's video. I think it's really good research about the case. It almost seemed like where you were parked behind the house that you could almost touch Maddie's bedroom. Like it was that close. I'd always imagined that it was quite a distance from where that parking spot was, but it
Mm-mm.
was literally probably almost like this level with that third floor or close to it and not that far at all. Is that what your impression was, CJ?
The same amount of steps to the right back corner of the deck,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I was there, the thing there's a lot of there was a lot of landscaping bricks around,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of landscaping bricks that were in the backyard at the back corner. Because if you look at the footage and you see how you're coming up the road, and then you can turn right, uh right in between that and where the stairs are at, there's a big dip in that back corner,
Wow.
and there's a lot of landscape bricks in that area. And so literally anybody could have just walked up to it, threw a couple bricks down, stacked them on top of each other, lunged themselves up on the deck, and gained access without anybody really knowing, because nobody's going to notice that the door's broke unless they're going up in that room to look. If you're coming
Yeah.
in the first floor door or the sliding glass door on the second floor, you're not gonna think anybody broke in, and unless you're checking the one up there. And then when you're coming home, how many times are you gonna think somebody broke in that door up there? You're not. So it could be a total sneak attack from that
What's
area.
so sad is that you think of the
But they said no forced entry though. So
no forced entry anywhere. And now I wonder, from based on just our reading of the transcript on your show the other day, how they worded that it was the stain in question, also reasonable doubt, in my opinion, was from 2 to 1. Did the perp run down those steps to get out of the house? Like why would they say from 2 to 1? That was from second floor leading down to the first floor. Why not say from the first floor going to the second floor? Unless I'm wondering if it was
those
a
were the.
partial of a handprint and there's a finger or something pointing downward.
I mean, there had to be red stuff all over the place. I wouldn't be surprised if
Mm-hmm.
the unknown is people that they sent home early that were trying to go in there and find out what happened. I mean,
Contamination.
right. And when it comes to the footsteps, you're talking about the freshest footsteps that took
Right.
place. And so, of course, if there's a bunch of people going in trying to help, there's going to be footsteps all over the place. You show up late, so you don't even. There's probably people in there. Had to have. I mean, it had to be crazy over there with the amount of people compared to when they finally showed up. And so that's so many people that you could potentially have been running in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, in
Sure.
and out.
Just
I
and you
think
could
about trying to get footsteps in that whole the whole kitchen area. I can't even, or the living room area.
mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine.
And now we get word of the vacuum, the description of the guy with the vacuum.
Who knows? It could be one of the when with the vacuum, when somebody's in that much shock. Who says they didn't watch a movie?
Right.
The night before or the night before that, and it went into their
Body.
intoxicated state vision of whatever the hell they were looking at, and they didn't know. And I can't imagine like hearing that stuff going on, and then that person walks by your door and you're looking out the crack, and you're that close to having the same thing happen to you. I can't imagine what kind. And who knows what maybe like who knows what
Yeah, it's just that CJ called it back in the day. He said, "What was this guy doing? Did he come in with a Bissell backpack? You know,
Yeah, clean up his
yeah,
footprint before he left. Like, come on, dude, I wouldn't even do that if I was gonna commit it. I don't give a shit about my footprints because if I did, I would have done something about it before I came in, knowing damn well that my footprints were going to make a difference in the crime, you know? I mean, duh, to think that there's not going to be stuff all over. Hello. And I don't think he's running in there with 3-4 size smaller shoes. That hurts.
Oh, with those size 13s?
Right. So
Yeah,
you're
put
not,
having on like a size, and he's going to switch over to Vans, which are the most uncomfortable shoes that you could possibly wear. I made the mistake one time because I thought that they looked nice of wearing them in an August day in Florida, walk down the beach. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
they're
there's no
so
support.
uncomfortable. That's a skateboarder. You know, those are good for skateboarding.
Yeah.
Surfers wear them, not runners. And then what about what we've learned? That print was outside DM's door. It wasn't leading to the kitchen, apparently.
No. No, it was faced towards the stairs.
Yeah.
That's why I always thought that because see, I think that this is just my opinion. I think if it wasn't at separate times,
hmm
because I always wonder why did Steve say they didn't have to go upstairs, but then again, what the hell are you being told in the first place when it comes
Mystery.
to
Big
uh
mystery,
to
CJ.
me it's like the person gained access because when I went there, like I said, I look at this stuff like I'm a criminal and I'm the victim. I have to play the scenarios in my head, what makes sense, multiple scenarios, analytical shit. And so when I get there and I'm looking at the back there and I'm like, I would definitely gain access to the third floor deck. I would break into the door because the people that are coming home aren't coming through the top door, and so they're not going to notice right away. And then I would just hide in this closet, especially if nobody's staying in there. And I know that. And then when I hear everybody come home, then I'm going to go ahead and attack upstairs first because it's right there. Now I heard some commotion downstairs that might interrupt what I wanted to do upstairs. So I need to go downstairs real quick and handle that shit. And so when I go downstairs and handle it, now I want to go back upstairs so I can finish what I was doing. And when you're looking at the injuries and then you're talking about one person's face couldn't even be identified and it was sunk in because of
Oh,
how many bones were broken,
oh my
you have
God.
to sit there and go, ain't nobody doing that brutal crime with two people downstairs making noise. You would have to go back upstairs to be able to have the time to sit there and do it. And, because just think of what I'm describing and how many strikes it would have to take. And and when you have that, then to me it's like, hey, I gained through the third floor. I don't want to leave out any of these doors to leave my whatever, and so I'll just go back how I came, because really you can go off to the deck and then you can just hop back down and you're fine because it's not cement right there, it's all dirt. So if you're jumping down a story high on dirt, you're fine. You're
They
fine.
also had that
And
couch
how it
right there, CJ. They had that couch right there. I could have jumped out on.
well, and then that's how they didn't know how they left.
ladder.
That's how they didn't know how they left. Because maybe they came back upstairs, the blood was right there. Maybe they did take maybe they did have a backpack upstairs with, who says they didn't take a damn shower? You know what I'm saying? Who says they didn't take a shower before they left?
Wasn't that something Papa Roger said? What if they took a shower and brought their own soap? Something
I
like
mean,
that.
and then you know what I mean, because all of that blood would be in that room, and then you're talking about a little blood coming out of there. You could walk on one side of the wall to make it downstairs and make sure when you're coming back up to walk on the same side that you contaminated. And then as you go to clean yourself off, you're going into the room that doesn't have anything in it because that's how you got in there. and then there's no trail of you leaving off of the deck. You jump down, ain't nobody. Because to me, if I'm leaving the crime scene and there's a deck that I can jump down onto dirt, damn straight I'm jumping on it. I'd rather leave the crime on some dirt that has leaves covering it instead of cement. For sure.
I'm anticipating what kind of medical examiner or medical professional and how they're going to talk about the injuries, because that'll be very telling to know how long it takes to inflict those injuries. And that to me could prolong the timeline, which would throw everything off.
It would have to, because when you're talking about just the face, and normally when those kind of injuries and it's a few strikes, it looks like a shotgun wound. Okay, but when you're talking where somebody's face is like this and it ends up like this because of all of those bones are broke, you're talking it's shattered. You got to hit shattered parts of shattered parts to get it that shattered, and to make it unrecognizable too. It makes me wonder, like, was it just that and hair? You know what I mean? Like a ghost face type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the timeline, it will be interesting, and then typically unique. I've always thought, when we were exploring stuff in the very beginning, I think it was like the third or fourth month, I was even thinking Emma and Dee. You know what I'm saying? And then when you talk about Bethany's exculpatory evidence that she and only she has her own unique experience when it comes to the exculpatory evidence. And I always thought that when you look at if you go to the first pictures that were taken, right after law enforcement showed up, you got to go to those, because when you go to those early ones, and you know how you got those long blinds that hang down, you know what I'm saying? So, and I have to deal with this all the time with baby Angel, because I go there and they're like one stuck open. Well, think about it though. If somebody was downstairs and they wanted to see who was leaving, I can see them holding that open to look out. It's that dark. They might think, oh, they're not going to notice me. Or maybe they saw something and got scared, and one of those long vertical blinds got stuck open. Because when you see when you see a picture of the house from the parking lot, there's one of those vertical blinds that's stuck open and cracked. And that's where I think maybe Bethany did see somebody that wasn't a male even, that was leaving the scene of the crime, because it is kind of interesting how everything about Emma and Dee just kind of disappeared about a year later, after BK was arrested. It was at the end of 2023 is when that stuff started to disappear, or when I noticed it was disappearing. And because remember, there was all these articles about how they were facing these huge, 25, 30 years hard time, that somebody was unalived with one of their product, and it was this whole big thing, and there was no way they were going to get out of it or even get any kind of like pleas. And then all of a sudden, poof,
Everything just fell apart. Yeah.
Where'd they go? Gone.
Strange.
Yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, when it comes to two people, because I think honestly, I either think it happened at two separate times, or I think that it was more than one person, especially when it comes to the BF exculpatory evidence. Because what else, if it's that dark and the person's wearing all black and they're wearing a ski mask, how do you know? How could you literally have yeah, I know that's not him for sure. The only way that you could know that that's not him for sure is if you see a different sex. Then you know for sure. Oh my gosh, they had long hair and it was a female figure. Well, then it doesn't matter how dark it is. You don't need to know how dark it is because you have the outline, the height, the silhouette. And if it's a female, that's her own experience. Maybe Dylan saw a guy with bushy eyebrows, but Bethany has her own unique experience, and that own unique experience could be, well, I saw a female.
Yeah, but it seems like with all this secrecy, like things that it shouldn't be, I don't know. The secrecy is what drives me crazy because that causes me to speculate a lot.
We need the trial public. We need the trial public. But well, I plan on having some shows like Friday and Saturday night. While I kind of get some other cases I'm going to be discussing. I'm going to be doing a lot of morning shows and night shows. But if you guys aren't busy this weekend, I'd love to have you on either Friday or Saturday.
I'll be away. I'll be visiting my friend in San Francisco, so I won't be able to.
Oh, awesome. Well, enjoy the little mini vacation.
Yeah.
That's got to be awesome. Getting out for sure, especially with all is the air quality better over there yet?
It's better, but it just affects me.
Yeah.
Dry eyes, and after reading that transcript, oh my God.
Well, you know what? I'm wondering if it's because even Rosie's got the same, like everybody's got the same damn bug out here. And even Rosie's got it too. And it's like, what the heck, man? Even people from across the pond come in here and they're talking about how they're feeling the same symptoms. And it's like, what the hell is this? This thing is just going all over the world or what?
Fog.
Because, I get the same way too. So, but I want to thank you guys for hanging out. But yeah, let me know. I'm planning on doing some other Idaho shows this weekend. So if any of you are available and would like to join,
yeah,
just let
things
me
are going to
know.
start really heating up now, CJ. When
Yeah.
you're talking motions in limine, you know that the trial's coming. And then right after that, after the hearing, they're going to do the closed hearing on the questionnaires. That's coming up in April.
Yeah, there's
it's
a
going to
lot.
be here before and then whatever else might come up before then that needs to be added to. This trial's going to be here before you know it.
Oh yeah. That's why I need to get back in the flow of it and still work on these other cases, but I need to start doing some more Idaho stuff here now, especially because the trial is going to be gearing up here in like 6 months. So, and I'd like to, I gotta be doing more shows about it. It's been that way for a while, but there's just a lot of work that I had to do out there in Myrtle Beach for Micah's case. And man, that stuff's been taken off like crazy too. With the updates, with the updates coming out for that, I'll be doing a Micah show here maybe tomorrow evening, maybe discussing all the updates. Yeah, there's a lot of updates with that one too. So
it's CJ. I know that you've been working on multiple cases and going out and everything, but isn't it sort of like potato chips when you come back to Idaho for it? It just immediately comes back to you, and
they all do.
recall. Yeah,
they all do. And that's why when it comes to my mind and how it works, like it used to be a crutch for me before, but when I applied it to what I'm doing now for work, it's actually a benefit for me because I do have like this mind that can fill up and store just shit that I didn't even know that I could. And it's just crazy that all these different cases, and that's how my mind is it's got to stay busy with a million things at the same time. Otherwise, I'm going off this way or something. And so when it comes to the work and having to keep up on everything and still give it all the same effort, I think that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm here to do that kind of work is because I can handle it. It doesn't affect me, and it just makes me want to keep pushing even harder to see what boundaries that I can keep crossing when it comes to the own limit, the limits that I have for myself, and
Hmm.
being able to go past them and seeing if I can do even better the next day. So I appreciate you guys being here, and thank you for your conversation tonight too, because I was
Pleasure.
kind of like, I had so many questions, in the beginning, and I'm like, what the hell? I need to talk to these people. And so
It's
I'm glad for
overwhelming.
you helping me out and catching me up.
It's overwhelming. It's a lot.
It's a pleasure,
It is.
CJ. Thank you for the invite, and I
It
want to
is.
say thank you, to Audrey and Yoli. Great conversation,
Yeah.
CJ, to everyone in chat, and it's going to start heating up. We're going to find out very soon. I think
Mhm.
once these Limine motions come out, we'll get some more information, and hopefully this case will start making sense very soon.
Maybe Friday at like 6 o'clock PM it'll come out on the docket, and then it'll be a Friday night conversation. Who knows? Fingers
Yeah.
crossed, right?
Yep.
All
All
right.
right.
Good night,
All
everybody.
right.
Thank you
Good
Good
so
night,
night,
much.
everybody.
everyone.
We'll
Good
see you
night.
Thank
tomorrow.
you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Appreciate you guys. We'll see you tomorrow for Sebastian. Me and Busby and Trey, we're going to be finishing up some Sebastian stuff when it comes to the new interview that dropped tonight. We did cover it when it went live and kind of discussed it a little bit. That was just a couple minute version, but then there's a 23 full minute version that was put out right after we got done, and I went ahead and uploaded that in the video section. But me and Busby and Trey are going to be talking about that tomorrow morning, and I'm sure we're going to be talking more about the criminal, not criminal. And I think I'm going to be doing Micah Miller show tomorrow night, so keep your eyes open for that. Thank you guys, appreciate it, love you. Thank you for the contributions. I want to give you all this real quick, and then please stay safe and get some good rest tonight, because I have a feeling we're gonna just keep going and going and going. I love you guys. Appreciate it.